I'm just fooling around. Anytime you want to start doing it, just let me know. Maybe I could just play it and then you can just tell me. Nobody ever heard of me, so who cares? It's not, and I'm not like making an album. I make CDs and I write songs and play places here and there, but it's not like on a very big scale. I don't know, it's just millions of ideas. For what purpose? Why are you doing this? So you get people interested in your songs. This is not my songs. This is just me sitting on a log by a chipper or something. What did you do? You went to Nashville and wrote songs. What was that like? You went to New York and had Vanguard record. What was that like? So whatever I say about that, it's not really the story of what happened. It's just a story of what happened. It's just a take on it. It's just, that's how I see it at any given moment. I might see it like this and it'd be totally different from how I see it at the next moment. Just because all you have different ideas about stuff. What do you mean, did I want to get rich and famous? Doesn't everybody? I mean, isn't that what it was all about? Wasn't that why you make records in the first place? Is you want to get rich and famous? Or is it because you have art that you want the world to see? My art is so important. Who gives a fuck about your art? That's egotistical. What's the difference between that and wanting to get famous or rich? It's all the same shit. It's all about me. I want to be the center of attention. Just like this video, now I'm the center of attention. So I don't know, I mean, what's the point? There ain't no point. You have to make a point. That's what it is. There's no point, you just have to make a point. If you don't make a point, there ain't any point. Actually, the Dalai Lama said that. So, I don't know what to tell you. Wanna take a ride? It ain't very far. Just around the block. Take a look at the stars. You can almost see where tomorrow will be. Right where it is today, within a few degrees. As far out into space as a man can go. It might be a whole lot different than it is here below. But if he ain't changed inside, he's in for the same old ride. And that's how the future will be, within a few degrees.
Real early on, you were writing in Nashville, I think it was.
Yeah, I went down there when I was 18, and I walked into a publishing company that they published this guy that I'd met down there named Bob Frank, who was a folk singer. I was very impressed with his work, and I said, well, how are you surviving down here? He said, well, I write for this publishing company, and they pay me money. Whoa. Yeah, $25 a week, like an advance. So I just thought, well, damn it, that's what I'm gonna do, you know? So I went into the same publishing company, played some songs. They said, what do you want? I said, $25 a week, just like you give Bob Frank.
Well, if you look at the two sort of loci of Bob's career in the 1960s, you know, he's a Memphis guy, so he has that rebellious streak that a lot of Memphians have. He goes up to Nashville, which is like, you know, you better do it our way, otherwise it doesn't happen. And he couldn't fit into that.
When you're inundated with just a bevy of pretty standard, you know, I mean, I miss my baby or whatever, you know, and then you hear somebody who's actually really trying to tell engaging, very personal stories, then that stands out.
I think that that Bob knows that there's that the value in a song is in a person being able to own it themselves emotionally, that it contains meaning for them, you know, not in having written it and being told that you're fucking great because you wrote a song.
4 o'clock in the morning out in Central Park with an empty wine bottle, wondering when it got so dark.
There's so many of that era, so many po-faced, deadly serious, singer-songwriters, both male and female, and you just want to strangle them. It's like, lighten up already. Bob doesn't have that problem. His stuff is always just really, it's entertaining, wonderfully entertaining, as well as being well written and thoughtful and mining some deep tributaries in American music.
It's unpredictable also, stylistically. I mean, he goes from folk 1 minute to country to something that sounds like blues to whatever. And he does all of it well. And it all fits within the framework of it being Bob Frank music.
It's hard to say really why, Bob's Nashville experience writing for Tree didn't work out. His style of writing was so organic and so natural that it didn't push the required buttons for commercial acceptance.
He was born to write songs, but he dug ditches and went to Vietnam and raised a family and wrote songs. Do you know? I mean, the question, I think the question becomes what is success, and what does it mean? Do you know?
I was heading up the valley through the Blackfoot River range on a dark, cloudy morning in a cold, blowing rain. It cut right through my Levi's from hat to heels. I'm soaked. Tried to conjure up a laugh, but I'm fresh plumb out of jokes. Well, originally when I was writing these songs, I was not writing them for myself to sing. I mean, I was, but I wasn't recording records then. I was writing for Tree Publishing, and they were supposed to be songs to pitch to other artists. But no other artist wanted to sing them. Change the weather, none to think what used to be. The clouds hid the peaks of a dark wilderness. I was cold, wet, broke, and hungry. I'd about had enough of this. It was a cowboy song where this guy was hitchhiking through the Blackfoot River range up in Montana. They said, change that to Route 66. Nobody ever heard of Blackfoot River. Put it on Route 66 and we'll pitch it to Waylon Jennings. So I said, no, I don't change my songs. I never change anything I was real particular then. Now I wouldn't care, I'd change it, I don't care, do whatever you want with it. So I never really got anybody recording these songs, even though Tree Published and Buddy Killen at Tree thought, man, those are some great songs, but he couldn't get anybody else interested in them. I'm a-riding down the highway through the Blackfoot River range, just rolling past old Vando, and I'm laughing at the rain. I got the winder up and the heater on, and I'll make her now, I know. But I tell you, bud, I had my doubts about a half an hour ago. There's an authentic song right there. I didn't just stay right there in Nashville all the time, which was probably part of the problem. I got tired of hanging out there all the time. I was just riding around the country in a van with my wife, who wasn't really my wife. We were just hanging out together. Later on, she became my wife. But at that time, we were just living in this van and riding around the country, and they'd sent me a check to a post office somewhere like up in the middle of Wyoming or Colorado somewhere. I'd go in the post office and get the check, and then get back in the van and we'd go somewhere else. So I really wasn't doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing. I didn't really even want to be doing any of that stuff. I didn't really want to, I didn't want to have a job. I didn't want to have to do what anybody told me to do. I'd already had enough of that in the Army and college and everything. I'm not doing anything anymore. My philosophy at that time was I'm not going to do anything but smoke dope, drink beer, and write songs. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do the rest of my life. I was sure that's all. I'm not going to do any of this other shit. So fortunately, it worked out there for a little while like that, and I was able to do that. And then that's how that happened. I didn't have a whole lot of ambition, and I didn't have any plans, and I wasn't smart enough to figure any of that stuff out anyway. But then pretty soon, nothing was happening, and they just said, no, this ain't working, and then they just quit paying me. Right at the time they quit paying me, Cletus Haggard called me up from Nashville and says, go to the airport and get on a plane and come back here. We're flying you back here. We're going to put you on Vanguard Records. So I just kind of fell out of one deal and into another one, and then we made that Vanguard record.
Only nourishment is had all day is a 4-bit bottle of wine. He stays down in the heart of town where the sun don't ever shine. He's prowling around the alley, sneaking a look in the garbage can, just to see what he can find today that might make him a happier man.
When Cletus introduced me to Bob, I recognized that this was what I considered an exceptional talent. I'd had a lot of experience at that time in working with not just songwriters, but writer-artists who I got record deals because of my contacts with him. I'd say that I met Bob in probably 1970. And very shortly after that, I believe we went into the studio, did a number of demo tapes.
And it was just me and the guitar. We went in the studio in Nashville, and I think it was Woodland Studios. Went in there, recorded those songs, and I was sort of fucked up as usual. So I had to sing these songs over and over again. They had like 26 takes or something. It's just me and the guitar.
I met with the people at Vanguard and met with David Wilkes, who was their, I don't know, the creative director, whoever was in charge of their creative division at that time, and his response and Vanguard's response was immediate as far as they saw Bob's potential to the degree that I did, and that we really had the potential of a major project.
And so I'd be drinking wine or smoking weed or whatever. I don't know. I was in the studio. They just put up with it. They figured it doesn't matter. This is good. We like this.
Yeah, I stole a car in Nashville and I drove it on down the line. I don't know what made me go do such a terrible crime, but I'd been sipping on $1 bottle of Golden Harvest rose grape wine, and all that low-grade alcohol must have rearranged my mind.
Gary Walker and Cletus Haggard came up to see me at Vanguard Records, and Gary was running the Bill Lowry music publishing company out of Nashville. I would say no to, 100 people, and maybe say yes, or a tentative yes to one. So a lot of people passed through my office. A lot of music passed through my office, and they played me this tape of Bob Frank. And I thought it was wonderful. It's exactly what Vanguard did. It was the singer-songwriter kind of style. I got up and walked into Maynard Solomon's office, who was the president and one of the owners of the company. I said, Maynard, you got to hear this guy Bob Frank. I think I played it for him something right then and there, and he said, let's do a deal. Let's sign him.
We had great expectations. Our whole organization knew we had something that was very special and into dimensions that you don't ordinarily experience on the day-to-day basis in the music industry.
And the fact that it was Gary, who I really liked, I got to know him really quickly. The fact that he worked for a major publishing company in the South meant that he had juice to help market the artists as well.
Oh, ain't it a shame the police got mine?
Now, when they put the record out, Maynard Solomon, who's like the head of Vanguard, was talking to me about it, and he was saying, we're not going to release this record if there's anything you don't approve of on it. And they would go back and add a guitar here, or they did a couple of things to it that I didn't really like. But it's okay. So they did it, but I thought, okay, that's one thing I didn't really like that, but they did it. And then a friend of mine, who's an artist, Randy Hayes, he made a picture for the front of the cover for the album. So I showed them that. I said, that's what I want to put on the front. And they said, they looked at it and thought about it for a while, and they said, nah, we're going to use this photograph. We like it better. So then I thought, wait a minute. Already they lied to me because they told me they're not going to use this picture I want to put on there. I mean, I can understand why they didn't want to use it, because they're looking at stuff in their traditional Vanguard category type thing, you know, and this was a little bit different. But my attitude in those days was I didn't trust anybody in a suit. I didn't trust business. I didn't trust anybody that made any money that I knew of. If I didn't know, you know, I mean, if they sold weed or something. You know, that's just how I was. My mind was like that, and it wasn't going to change at that point.
He takes me on a trip across the broken side of town, and I can see through the windows of his words how life has brought him down. He speaks of a woman that's done him wrong and a bottle that's done him in, and I can see through the mirror of his song the man I might have been. And if might have been ain't strong enough, well, it's the man I still might be. For who's to say what kind of shape this life might take for me?
Then when they had that Vanguard record release party, they had it at, where did they have it? Max's Kansas City was a big club at that time. I'd never heard of it, but I never heard of anything much. And they had all the press there, all the magazines, Billboard, and newspapers, and I don't know, everything.
Max's was one of the most prestigious clubs in New York. The music industry people went there, the writers from the industry hung out there, other record executives and staff hung out there. It was a very in spot, and that was a good spot to, you know, to have someone like Bob play.
And you're supposed to go there and play the songs off the record. That's why they have this, that's the whole point of it. It's a promotion thing. I didn't care about promotion. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just write fucking songs. So I'm up there and I'm playing them, and I'm like, I'm not gonna play these songs. Okay, he's told me that he wouldn't, that he wouldn't release this record and if they had anything that I didn't approve of. And already he's not doing that. So in my mind, it was like, okay, two can play at that game. I'll do the same thing. I won't play any of these songs that are on the record.
Learning that this was an individual that simply didn't care. That's something that's a different, it's like an alien from a different world that really didn't care whether or not, you can understand that in meeting Bob, I'm assuming, that Bob still, to some degree, none of this has any, none of the episodes had any, it's who Bob was.
And I was playing these songs I had just written for me and my wife. But at that time we were married because she got pregnant somehow. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, we got married and we had a little baby. It was born at the same time this album came out. And we were living in New Hampshire. We had a nice little garden up there. We were living in a little cabin. And I wrote all these songs about the garden and the bugs and the food and the trees.
Sunny rays streaking through the window pane. It's clear, crystal morning. I don't see no sign of rain.
I thought this is what people want to hear. They don't want to hear all this old degenerate stuff about winos and drug fiends and stuff. That's no good. That shit's old. I want to play them all these wholesome songs. They didn't want to hear that. They want to hear all the old degenerate shit.
They expected him to sing the songs and introduce his album there, but Bob started singing some other songs. At some point, I believe Maynard Solomon, one of the two Solomon brothers that owned Vanguard, kind of interrupted Bob and said, Bob, I think they'd like to hear some selections from your album.
I said, well, if they want to hear songs from the album, let them go buy the fucking album. Ooh.
That was kind of a dumb thing to say. Didn't help his career. As a matter of fact, it ended it, you know, basically.
The point is that I'm in the mainstream world, of which Bob at least agreed to become a part of that. I don't know that he agreed to follow the rules.
I didn't really think it made any difference, and I didn't really give a fuck. That's kind of how I was, you know, and I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Something broke it.
Well, Maynard was upset, and because he thought that the artist was not cooperative, and they spent money to make the record. They were going to spend money on marketing.
Well, like Jim Dickens said, bad career move. I actually thought, look, this record is going to get released and the people are going to love it, and it's not going to matter if I play these songs at night. That's just one gig. Who cares? But that's not at all what happened. What happened was they figured, this guy is crazy. He's not going to go along with what we want. He's too weird. And they just dropped the whole thing. They had already distributed a certain amount of those albums. They distributed a lot of them to North Carolina and Arkansas and some of these places. But that was it. After that gig, they didn't distribute any more of them. As Dickinson said, they never got off the shipping room floor. They just sat there. So that was the end of that career. And then Vanguard just dropped me like that. We have nothing more to do with you.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Well, I couldn't think of a thing to say, so I just called for one more round. And I slipped a dime in the jukebox just to hear some familiar sound.
Bob definitely had to be smoking something or totally drunk and didn't even remember I think he was drunk, if I remember correctly now, that he was kind of acting, out of that's wild that he did that. So he didn't even, subconsciously destroyed his career. Consciously, he had no idea what he was doing.
You can do anything with this story. You can say, see, that's the individual artist. Or that's the guy who don't know what the fuck's going on. It doesn't really matter. Those are just opinions. The fact is, it happened. And the thing is, you can't really change any of that stuff. Your mind's a certain way at every moment in your life, and you make these decisions based on that. And you'd have to be somebody else to make a different decision. So that's how it is.
But I remember Bob saying either to me or to Maynard that he wanted to go back up to, I think it was Vermont, and it was time to put his vegetable garden in. So this must have been, I don't even remember when the Max's Kansas City was, but it must have been something like May. Could that be? Do you I guess it was before the planting season for vegetables in Vermont. Oh man, that was kind of one of the strange ways of killing a career, right?
Let's put it this way: it was such a big deal. The Holy Grail is a big deal when you lose it, when it gets smashed. Okay, yeah. I'd say that the Bob Frank thing was in that element of the Holy Grail of what you're looking for and what you want to do when you go into the music business, because a part of it had to do with the contribution that it might be to the world.
We all take it hard when we love an artist and it doesn't happen. We take it very hard. It's more than just a business transaction. If you're a real lover of music and you want to help develop an artist's career.
That particular action he took at that time had a tremendous effect on a huge number of people out there that were supporters of him at that time, that wanted to think of him as something really positive and great in their lives, and it's smashed down into nothing.
Rolling down the road, I smell something burning. The first thing you know, I done lost a wheel bearing. Pulled into the station, rolling right on through it. Didn't have no brakes at all. I done lost all that fluid. That's when I got distracted. Everybody was a-hollering at me and pointing at my left rear axle. I didn't record any more albums for 30 years. See, that was in 72, 82, 92. Saw the windshield shatter, jumped out of the van. Saw just what was the matter. The left rear wheel and the axle separated from the differential, and that plus the cost of a tow truck Added up to the start of my troubles.
I don't think he cared. I don't remember having any conversation about it, but I just knew that he had an album out, which is something none of us had. I first met Bob through Gary McMahon, who'd known Bob, I think, from the old Exit Inn where Gary was a part-time bartender, and Bob's record was just coming out around that time, and I was just getting to Nashville, and we used to go over to his upstairs apartment here in Sylvan Park, eat some spaghetti, play some music, and just kind of hang. Even then, his songs were really different from what most of the people trying to break into Nashville were doing. He just kind of stood out in a crowd that would have included Townes Van Zandt, Dave Olney, Guy Clark, Rodney Crowell. All those guys were in town, but Bob had his own thing from the start. He never struck me as one of those guys who's going to do everything to achieve stardom and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've worked with some people who are always on and always looking for the opportunity. Bob just was Bob. He's just a songwriter writing for himself.
Knowing what I know now about Bob Frank, I can see why this just never, Nashville was not his thing. It just really wasn't. And that's not an indictment necessarily on either one. That's just the way things work out.
Bob Frank lives in this town called El Sobrani. It's Spanish, means the leftovers. I think it's incredibly funny. It's incredibly funny because Bob is that leftover.
How did you end up out here?
Okay, well, that's right after that Vanguard thing fell apart. Cletus Haggard became my manager, and he booked me on a tour going down through Texas and across Arizona and Southern California and up to Berkeley, and then he ran out of gigs. We didn't have any more gigs. So then we were in this same little van we'd been living in for 2 or 3 years, but we had a little baby who is now a couple of years old. And I was like, okay, we don't have any more gigs. Let's go back to Colorado or Wyoming or somewhere in the Rocky Mountains and live back there. And Deirdre, my wife, said, she said, I got one kid, we got one on the way, and we got $40. She said, I'm not going anywhere. And I thought, yeah, I guess we're not going anywhere. That's a good idea. So I just stayed right in here in the Bay Area, and I've been here ever since. And that's why I raised 4 kids and wrote 40 million songs and stayed right here. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't even want to go anywhere. I just go to every now and then. I go to Arizona because it's nice down there. But here I am. Down there in the creek, I'm chipping up all the branches, so trees fell over. So we had to cut them all up. And then the branches of them, that's that orange thing there's a chipper. That's what I'm doing down there at this point. And I'm going to Arizona, and I'm gonna record some more CDs. We already started working on 2 or 3 CDs, and we're gonna finish up a couple of them and start another one. It's a memorial thing to my wife, kinda. It's like, she died a couple of years ago. These are songs that she liked, so we're making a CD of them. And it's just gonna be me and a guitar on most of them. In fact, almost all of them. Why do I do it down there? I don't know why I do it down there. Just because that's where I do it. I have friends down there that play music, and this guy has a studio. It's not even a studio, really. I just started doing it, so I'm going to do it. But we've collected about 20 of them that I can still remember that I had at that time that she liked a lot. And so one of them was called By the Light of the Lamp. That was the name of one of the songs. So we just called that whole album By the Light of the Lamp. That was one of her favorite songs. I really don't have much plans for them because I don't really tour, so if you don't, nobody knows who I am, really, just a handful of people. So I'll sell a handful of albums. And that's probably it. I don't really have much plans for them. Basically, I'm just making them because I like to have the albums there, to make the albums, and I don't know, something to do. I wrote all the songs, I might as well record them. But I don't have a whole lot of plans about what to do with them. But I love you now, I'm gonna love you then. No matter how many changes time brings in, beyond the farthest star to where the light years cease, my love will go that far within a few degrees. Wanna take a ride? It ain't very far. We're just around the perimeter. Take a look at the stars. You can always see where tomorrow will be, right where it is today, within a few degrees. I think the main thing about writing songs is just writing the damn songs. That's really one of the main rewarding things about it, is actually writing it and being able to play it. Now, and if you can go play it for somebody and they like it, that's good. I don't know. By the light of the land, you and me, finding a path that when you see which way to go, let me know through the fear.
We met Bob 15 years ago, and he got invited back here to Arizona for the Glendale Folk Festival, and I was asked to put him up here. He and his wife did, and we've been friends since then. We have this, I don't know if you can see the barn here, but we've turned it into an entertainment center where traveling musicians can come in here and do house concerts, pick up a little money to help them get along. Anyhow, so I started running sound for it, and I have a little studio in there I was using for my own demos.
Will overflow. And how we know how it feels to be trapped beneath the wheel. We're gonna set the spirit free, you and me, you and me.
It sounded good to me. Oh, wait, I got that.
What?
I didn't know which one you were going to do first.
I don't either. I'm going to do this Lost Wheelbarrow. I can't start it like that. I just have to start it like I always do these songs. Okay, let's start all over again. Ready? Are you ready? You can see we do this a lot. We don't even know. Everything we do, it takes 3 or 4 times to do it. That's when I got distracted. Everybody, shit, I keep fucking that line up, man. I gotta think. Okay, let's do it. Just go over that one. Okay. I think I like the first one better. It seems a little more smoother or something. Anyway, okay, next song. I never will forget the times we had when we were growing up. Swimming, shit, goddamn. With the moon, sunlight, shit, fuck it. I don't think I can do this song right now. It's too much stuff. I need to not have anybody taping me when I'm doing this because it's just too claustrophobic. I got to have more space.
I can back off.
Little birds let shit. Got to do it again, Chuck. Start all over. Scratch that one. Maybe I should do it one more time. That same song once more. Save what you got. Little bird flies all around. Ain't got no ties to hold him down. Up to the heavens and feeling so free. Little bird flies just like me. Little wind blows all about. Blow your raincoat inside out. Little wind sighs, little wind dies. Little wind cries just like me. Lying in my room tonight, I can see the coming of the morning light. And everything seems to be alright after such a long and sleepless night. Day breaks, sunlight falls, footsteps echo down the hall. Life goes on day by day. Little girls laugh, little boys play, and the little bird flies all around. Ain't got no ties to hold him down. Up to the heavens and feeling so free. Little bird flies just like me. When we had our very first kid we had, she was born at home in a little shack out in Vermont in the woods. First I thought, oh, this is a trap. I'm trapped. I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. But then I found out actually it was very rewarding, very fulfilling, and it made what I thought I wanted to do seem really trivial. I know it's art, and it's your personal expression, and yada, 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 all that bullshit. That doesn't mean shit, really. Not to me. It's just...
But
you can do that anyway. I was always writing songs anyway. I was always writing songs. I never quit writing songs. And I just wasn't going out and playing them a whole lot. I went out and played them some, but not as much. I wasn't really going out and playing them very much when I was doing it professionally. I never had much of a big tour. I went on a tour a couple of times. I played some clubs when that album came out for a year or so after. And there was nothing to it. You go and you play these places and it's like, that's it? That's all there is to it? Then what? And you go to another place and do it again.
Got my highways before me. Got my foot on the road. Got my angels above me. Got my devils below.
it's really not much there. You have to make it all up. You have to constantly be making up what this is, how important this is, because it really isn't important at all. So it's just something you do, you know. It's just one again. It's like you could be making shoes or something. If it's just something you like to do and you really enjoy doing it, well, yeah, keep doing it. I don't know. There's not much. It's just pretty simple to understand that, I think. But to talk about it, you know, it's pretty simplistic. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing, oversimplifying it. I don't know. Now I want to find a place to go get something cold to drink. Is this a little gas station up here? My grandmother said, Bobby really loves little kids when I was young. She said, he really loves babies. That's the truth, man. I fucking love babies. So that's all. That's what life is to me. You have babies. Nothing better. Anyway, I'm gonna go in here. Want to go in here?
These little precious children always need somebody to pick them up and hug them and listen to their problems. And since from all the world about, we're the two they each picked out, how can there be any doubt what we ought to do? Love is hard to find, so truly we don't want to lose it, do we?
And then I started doing irrigation for the city, and I just kept doing that and got in the park department, and I don't know. It was actually a really good job for a guy like me. I was outdoors all the time. I didn't have any boss hanging over my shoulder. I could go where I wanted to go, and I could be outside all the time, and I'll just go out there and dig a bunch of holes in the ground. And well, we fixed pipes, and we fixed valves and controllers. We did all the irrigation work for the city, for the ball fields and the medians. My mom was always thinking, fuck, I can't make any money in music ever. You know, it's like, that's all I care about doing is writing these songs. I was always writing songs the whole time I was working out there. I'd write songs on the way to work. You know, I'd sit in my van. One guy, when he met me in the city of Oakland, he was a gardener. I was in his park one day in a van. I had a guitar. I had the guitar in the van with me. I'm sitting there playing the guitar, and he comes up to the window. He says, "Hi, I'm Gary." And I said, "Go away, leave me alone. I'm writing a song." I didn't even know the guy. He's trying to be friendly. I'm like, get the fuck away. I'm writing a song. Well, that's what I was doing all the fucking time. I would sing them in my van. I'd ride around the city or go to work in my car, truck, or whatever. I'd be singing these songs all the time. And writing songs all this time. I'm always writing and songs and singing. I mean, it's just what I do. You know what I mean? That's really what it boils down to. Like several people told me, Jim Dickinson, Gary McMahon, Cletus, my wife, everybody told me, you're just a natural born songwriter. I didn't know what the fuck that meant. I thought, well, what do you mean natural born? I mean, I like to write songs, but I mean, a lot of people write songs, and it's not that hard. Anybody can write a song. You just sit down and start, you know, that's what I always thought. Anybody can write a song. But then at some point I realized, like, actually, that's not really true. Some people can write songs, and some people naturally write them really easier than other people, and some people, they just write them. And that's what I mean, I just sit down and write songs, and they just sort of come out.
Just to get a decent raise, you got to turn on the magic charm. Just to get some medical benefits, you got to twist somebody's arm. They say we're all one big family. They say we're all in the same boat. So why does their ass ride first class while I'm barely staying afloat?
I've seen a picture of a very tiny me on a tiny little front porch somewhere, and my parents would say, "Oh yeah, that's when we were in Nashville." But I don't remember any of that. I was born in '72, and then by '74 they were in Berkeley by the time my brother Rio was born. And then in '75, my little sister Lisa was born. Everything was just a little quirky and different, and so his music was just another facet of that he was writing these beautiful songs that that I loved, that my mom loved. I know she told me a story about, about when she decided she wanted to have a kid. They weren't married. She just ran out of pills and decided that she didn't want to take them anymore, and she really wanted a baby. And her first husband had died really tragically, and she wanted to do this. And she didn't expect him to stay. She thought she was just going to be a single mom because she thought he was not reliable enough, too focused on his music. I don't know exactly. I don't know, but I know that she didn't think he would actually want to stay, and he totally did.
Deeper under.
You don't have to like close your eyes and one person raises their hand.
How to treat each other. And even though sometimes we trip, stumble, fall, and slide and slip, still with almost every step, we're moving on. Love is hard to find, so truly, we don't want to lose it, do we?
What did I say? 2 tickets?
We will do whatever it takes. We don't want to see a heart break.
I mean, everybody's different. People can do different things, but I couldn't go off and leave my kids. What I want to do that for? There ain't anything out there. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe some things are easier to do at home, but when you're on the road, I guess playing the music's like being on the road all the time. Yeah. So I even wrote a song about it. I can play you that song if I remember how it goes. Why don't I play you that song? Played a lot of songs, it wasn't no count. Did a lot of drinking on the house. Never had nothing up my sleeve. Every friend I had to leave. That's how it was out on the road. Didn't take too long and it got old. Still I kinda miss it now and then. Maybe I'll do it all again. So yeah, that's that's what that is. You know, you think that'd be fun. I'd go out there and I'll be free. I'll ramble around from town to town and play music and be my own man. That's bullshit. You're on a fucking schedule. It's just a job. You gotta go from one place to another every day. It's bullshit. The whole image of the guy, the playing the guitar and singing songs and he's free and all that. He's not free. That guy's a job, man. Free is when you don't go to work, when you just sit around and write songs and drink beer and smoke weed all day long. That's free. If you're really free, you can't make very much money doing that unless you find somebody to record those songs for you. If you record the songs yourself, then you're hooked up to playing gigs because you can't sell them if you don't go out and play gigs. So you have a job. It's a fucking job, man. Those guys aren't free. They're doing what they want to do a couple hours a night.
And then somehow somebody told me that he was working as a gardener or working for the public parks department in Oakland. And I think I called him up just to say hello to him. And he sent me some tapes of his music that he was writing, and The Gist of Robin Hood was one of those things. And then a song about a truck driver who loses control of his rig, which is totally amazing. I mean, of all the songs that Bob wrote, that one stands up in my mind now. It was like a movie.
Well, he knew he had some trouble just as soon as he hit town. But when he stepped on the brakes, they did not slow him down. His rig just kept on rolling and his heart began to thump. If he hoped to make it out alive, he knew he'd have to jump. But there were children in the crosswalk just a few blocks down the street. He was heading right straight at them, steadily picking up more speed. If he'd have jumped, he might have made it, but at the wheel he stayed. Coming into Glen Rock down that short, steep grade.
So even though I went back to the Vanguard record and listened to the cuts, and of course it brought back the memories, that one about that truck driver on the curve was totally fantastic, you know. That might have been our third album. So that's when you feel sad that somebody can, you know, let the career dissolve and then come up with material like that. That's the art world. That's art, right?
Somewhere along the line, you're going to have some practical. There's going to be a practical aspect of it if you want to. I hesitate to say if you want to be a household name. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. But Bob certainly would like for his work to be heard by people, and I think that he recognizes that to some degree, I don't know to what degree, that it's good, that it's good that people are here. I mean, I think he has faith in his. I don't know what he thinks.
Nobody's got it easy. Nobody's got it made. Don't let your heart be troubled. Don't let it be afraid. Remember Miller River, the trials he went through before he reached enlightenment. He was just like you.
I'm writing a song that's just good to sing, that I can sing and feel comfortable with. And when I play it for people, they might like it. I don't give a fuck about a hit song. I don't even know what a hit song is. I don't even like some hit songs. So what, I mean, that's not part of what I do. And it's also probably making money off of songs is not part of what I do. I just do it for the song. It's just me and a song, and that's all the reason I'm doing it. And that's why I'm sitting here making this, that's why I'm sitting here talking to you, because if I had actually knew how to write a song to make money, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I'd probably be dead, but.
And one of his biggest rants when he was really upset and frustrated and angry when I was a kid was all about how don't ever get married and have kids. You'll never get to do anything you want to do ever again, and there's no point in life, and rah. I mean, he would get so, and it was all that pain. It was all that pain about what could have been and what should have been and what wasn't.
Well, what might have been, yeah. I think this was something that was important, and that Bob's action kept it from. It was something important at some level as far as our culture or whatever.
Maybe it was because of experiences in the war or being told what to do. And he's certainly anti-establishment, or else he would, and I'm sure he came from an establishment family in Memphis. And he was an anti-establishment. He didn't want to be directed to what to do with his life. He found a life, a wife, a new child, a home, a garden, and he wanted to do that.
I've had other projects in which the artist have a self-destruct button and destroy it when it gets to the point, or when the rubber hits the road, they can't cope with it. And so that's not unique, except that his was much more dramatic in the setting and everything that it was, the whole record company. And what likely was on the verge of success at a pretty high level for Bob.
Okay, the first time I ever heard that anybody even knew that record existed was when I got a computer in probably around 2000, somewhere around there. And I started getting these emails.
I got a
people.
song for you to hear below the borderline.
That's when I realized that, you know, there were some people that liked that record, that bought it, and they really liked it. They fucking loved it, man. And these people in North Carolina invited me to come back and play at this big thing they have in the woods every year. And I'm like, what? I don't even know who these people are. They, you know, yeah, come on back and play. It just seemed so unrealistic to me. And then one guy called me on the phone. He says, listen, this is real. We're not just bullshitting, man. You should come back here. We'll pay your plane ticket. You come back here and play. We'll give you a tent to stay in. It's out in the woods. We'll feed you. You don't have to do anything. You'll have beer and weed and wine, everything you want. It's all right there. And all you got to do is just play some songs. So I went back there, and I was out in the middle of the woods in North Carolina, and I got up on this little stage and started playing, I don't know, I was playing some songs off that album. It was pretty weird. Everybody out there in the woods, they all stood up and started singing along with me. And I'm like, holy shit, these guys know all the fucking words. I felt like Johnny Cash at the Greatest Hits concert or something. I thought, holy shit, I didn't even know these people, I don't know anybody knew that album, and they all knew it by heart.
But still he cannot understand why I refuse to go to war.
I found it at a record store in Reidsville, North Carolina called Trent's Records. Miss Betty Sue Trent, wonderful lady, owned a record store, and I went there probably on a daily basis. And I found it in the bin of new arrivals. I think that's where it was. And I just saw the cover of it, you know, and this, you know, on the front, and him with the beard and, you know, the back end, that's cool, you know. And then when I flipped it over and saw the photograph on the back, they're sitting on the porch of an old cabin jamming, you know, I said, I gotta have this record.
I had a friend who worked at a record store in Greenville, North Carolina, Record Bar, actually was where he worked. He said he had this new album he wanted me to hear, and so after I heard it, I had to go and buy it from him and played it 24 times the first week I had it probably, and learned all the songs.
Boots Blanton was the one that originally showed the album to me, and he goes, "Oh, you haven't heard of Bob Frank or heard that album?" I said, No, I wasn't aware of it. And he said, "Oh, you need to come listen to this."
And I was living in a farmhouse with a lot of roommates and a lot of parties and a lot of people coming out there, and we were all really into music. Sit them down in the living room and I'd say, "Don't talk, just sit here and listen. I want you to hear this."
Well, like a lot of people probably, I had a family member that was an influence on me in a lot of ways. One of those ways is musically. He was 12 years older than me. But he was a cousin of mine, Mickey Simpson. He still lives nearby. He plays Bob Frank for me. And I remember him saying, you know, every song on that album's a 10. And I couldn't disagree with him on that.
I was working as an electrician's helper in Greenville, North Carolina. And the electrician I worked with was one of those guys who works and sings all day. And finally, after about a week of listening to this, I said, "What's that song?" He proceeded to tell me the legend then of Bob Frank, how this guy had come out of nowhere, made one album and disappeared.
You know, and you used to go to these parties and carry a stack of records under your arm. That record went to a right many of those things, and a lot of people just, "Wow, who is that? Where did you get that?" And I said, "You just go get you one. Miss Trent's got them, you know."
And it was sort of like a cult following in a way, and it became just really one of the things everybody sang along with the music and everything. And it wasn't just at the farm too, it was everywhere, you know. People would sing his music and just have a good time with it.
So time goes by, and Bob Frank's a mystery. There's no follow-up album.
I know there was a lot of curiosity about him, and well, where's the guy from? Well, I don't know, you know, he's just got this one album.
And you'd look for him and try to find more music, and there's no more Bob Frank to be found. And we figured, just listening to the tone of his songs and such, that maybe he died.
All we had to reference was those 12 songs. And it's, if you think about the subject matter, it's wine and winos, and it's some venereal disease in there, and a drowning, and it's a draft evasion. It's just not a lifestyle that's conducive to longevity. And I always thought, well, he's either in prison or he's dead.
A lot of people said, well, he's living in Canada now because he's a draft dodger, you know, and moved to Canada and all that. You know, that was one of the things that people thought.
But mostly they were of the probably dead, probably, you know, lying in an alley somewhere, sort of rumors that we'd like our heroes to have.
Occasionally, I would think to myself that he made so much money off that record that he just retired. You know, but it was. I thought it was that great of a record.
I'm telling you now, I got to use that Winston Churchill quote, that riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma quote, because that's what it was to me. And just wondering what happened to him. And there's no trace.
You know, now you can find out almost anything, but back then it was just like rumors, and you just thought, well, we'll never know, you know.
He had a big cult following around Greenville in the early 80s. And as you said, I'm not sure why North Carolina, of all places.
You would think, well, that could just as easily have happened anywhere. It's just one of those odd things.
Were they in all the music stores up and down the East Coast, and it was just the people in North Carolina that liked his music and picked it up and they sold them all? You know, we're not entirely sure.
We thought he was a ghost. And one thing, being at the reunion, we would hear over and over, wouldn't it be wild if Bob Frank would actually come play here? You know, I mean, you'd hear that all the time. It was just like saying, wouldn't it be wild if the Beatles came and played? You know, it was that same kind of feeling, you know. Wouldn't it be wild? And so I was thinking, well, it would be really neat if Bob Frank came and played at our reunion, you know. And I said, I think I'll look him up on the internet.
All of a sudden, John McEntire called one day and said, we found him. And said, Arthur Lewis found him on the internet.
And then I called Bob on the phone, you know, but he says, you know, I'm in Oakland and I'm working for the city of Oakland and, you know, sanitation department, wherever it was, maintenance type stuff or whatever. Then got him some gigs around North Carolina.
I think he was surprised that he was playing on stage the first time he got up on stage and played, and all these people were standing around and Bob was playing a lot of his Vanguard tunes.
And he noticed immediately everybody was singing along with him. So when he finished that song, I saw, you know, he's got the strap on his guitar. He's just standing there with his arms down, and he pauses, he's looking at it, he's got this big grin, and he goes, yes! You know, and I could just tell, man, he just could not believe that he's playing for all these people, and everybody out there knows the damn song, you know, and is repeating the words to him. So it was a special moment, it really was.
And the night he played at Jesse's, that cousin that I first heard it with, he went with me, and I said, did you ever think we'd be hearing Bob Frank play, much less out here in the country a couple miles from home? And he said, no, I didn't.
He came and played a show around here, and it was a wonderful show, and I keep hoping he'll come back.
And somebody goes, that sounds like that old Bob Frank tune I used to listen to, and I went, this is Bob Frank. And I went, what?
Bob signed some autographs that night. He played at Jesse's, and I was in line, and a guy in front of me, he was talking to Bob, and you could tell he was starstruck. He said, man, one of the first things I searched when the internet came out was Bob Frank. And I didn't say anything, but I did the same thing. I don't think he's the first thing I searched. Couldn't Google. I guess it's probably America Online or something, but not the first thing I searched, but one of the first things I searched. There was nothing there.
There wasn't any way to communicate with him back then. Nobody even knew where he was to even tell him that, you know, he was a hero, you know.
I don't know, I have all these crazy stories. People, sheep herders down in New Zealand that have it, and people in Japan and Europe and everywhere. You know, I mean, there's not that many people that like it, you know, but it's a lot to me. I mean, and they all really love it. For me, it was really a big deal, so I don't know. Maybe that's not very important. This is the only place I knew I could get a gig, because I know Tom Heyman's the guy that's putting on the thing. He's also playing. So I knew it would be easy to get a gig here. I don't know any other place where I could get a gig that easy. I don't ever play anywhere around here anymore. I did for a while. It comes and goes, but now I'm not doing it at all. Just driving over here, I was like, this is why I don't like to do this. I have to drive over here and worry about where it's at and how to park and how to get here and the traffic and that, you know. And then I drove down to 28th or somewhere, and I thought, I've gone too far. So I had to turn around and come back. So that's why I don't like to come over these. I actually looked it up, Googled it, and I said, oh yeah, I know how to get there, but I didn't look at the number of the street, so. Tom, are we ready to go? He's doing this in-depth interview here where he's asking me why I don't come over here more often.
It's because it's in fucking traffic, man.
That's why I told him, but I didn't put it in such colorful language.
Oh, sorry. I mean...
I stopped at the Baghdad Cafe just to get me a hamburger steak. She was sitting out there in the shade, taking her afternoon break. Her hair was turquoise and purple. She had a spider tattooed on her hand, a ring in her nose that says, I suppose your mother was born in Japan. She followed me in the cafe. I was the only one there, and when I asked her where should I sit, she said just sit anywhere. And then she brought me a menu and a glass of ice cold water. She said, I think what you want is a hamburger steak. I said, that's just what I was fixing to order. But how did you know? And she said, I guess it's just your lucky day. It's the only thing on the menu. Welcome to the Baghdad Cafe. It sits way out there in the desert, in a shack as old as the hills. There's an upright piano all covered with cobwebs. That place like to give me the chills.
I disappeared. And that put this mystery on that thing. This is what I'm just thinking. I just made all this shit up. I don't really know this, but it seems true and it makes sense. And so it became very personal, see? It wouldn't be that personal if you see the guy and you know what he's like, and okay, he's still good. Oh, I really love his song and so forth. But it's not so personal because you can see who he is. If you can't see who he is, he only exists as this image that you made up in your mind. So that created this mystique, and that created the cult following. That's that cult thing, you know, and it's like, and now that I'm back or visible and I'm still alive and I'm still making albums, it ain't that big a deal. The albums ain't that great, or I'm not really that interesting. I mean, it's just, there's nothing to it anymore, you know?
One thing led to another. She was so cute, I just fell. She told me about her dear mother, who stays at the Neon Motel. All afternoon we just sat there. No other customers came. I gazed in her eyes and ate some French fries and thought about changing her name. We went to see her dear mother. took her some raspberry tea, and then me and that waitress laid down on a mattress and talked about old Tennessee. I'm still out here in the desert. I think I've decided to stay. Sing the plantano and play the piano each night at the Baghdad Cafe. Sing the plantano and play the piano each night at the Baghdad Cafe.
I feel really good about things because of other stuff I've done, which is more personal. It's really not because of music. It's more like spiritual stuff or psychological. I don't know what you want to call it. But anyway, because of that, none of this other stuff really matters. It's there and it's fun and I can do it or not do it or whatever, and I do it. And I'm going to keep writing songs. I always write songs, but that's really not the main thing. So because I have something else that's really the main thing, that everything's good anyway, no matter what happens.
I think there's a fundamental truth to it that has never changed, that has been part of who he is since he was really, really, really young, which is that he writes songs. Whatever else is going on in his life, he writes songs. And then I think how those songs have been received and what other people have wanted to do with them has changed. And I think that he has never really cared as much about what happens with them as he has about the act of writing them.
Looking back on it was something that that the more positives than there are negatives from it. So I treasure my experience with Bob Frank. And we're glad to have that part of my legacy of this. Yeah, this is good for me. I like this. I like having my name on this album. And I do think we did something important. Obviously we did, from the standpoint of something that's been meaningful to quite a large number of people. And I'm, again, very proud of it and pleased to be a part of it. And I love Bob Frank as a person.
More power to him. I'd like to spend some time with him after this, and talk to him about it more.
I still believe that there's an audience for him, because here it is 40 years later and we're talking about him, and total strangers, when they hear his music, they want to see the guy behind it. There's not a lot of records by relatively obscure songwriters from that time period that hold up that well.
The songs are good. It's because the songs are good. That's why. Not because he was or wasn't on a label, not because there was or wasn't a record, not because he does or doesn't play, but because the songs are good. The songs are great.
I keep it separate now from all the other albums. I think maybe I got a couple of hundred, maybe a few more than that, but I keep it separate. I thought, well, if there's a fire or something, and I'm going out, I might get that Bob Frank album and take it with me, but.
Everyone in my family knows not to mess with this record. It is a sacred object to me.
Bob, for all his sort of nonchalance and self-deprecation, he's a lifer. He's always going to write music. He's always going to write these odd, interesting, quirky little pieces, and they'll always come to the surface as they are now. And thank heaven for that.
I call it spiritual, but it's not like I'm a born-again Christian or something. It's not really a religion itself, although I practice Buddhism, okay? But it's not like a religion. It's more like just, it's real practical. It's just looking at your mind and watching what you actually do. And a career is only good for so long. When you die, a career ain't gonna help you worth the fuck. What are you gonna do then? Well, what I'm doing now, like it will, so it sounds weird. I know it sounds weird, but it's just because people don't understand it. But the point is, I don't know. It's a very interesting question, and I don't really, without actually going into detail about what I'm talking about, it's not going to make a lot of sense, but I don't really want to go into detail about it. So I think it's just going to have to not make much sense. That's just how we have to leave it.
Okay.
What else?
Plumber turns a wrench, the lawyer turns a phrase, the judge turns it over, and it turns out 90 days. Those attorneys turn a dime every time they turn a deal. Money might be the grease, but love turns the wheel.